Hey there, and welcome to the People Who Help People podcast. This is the spot for HR and people ops pros who are all about building better businesses by putting people first. We chat with founders and experts who've been there, done that, and are generous enough to share what actually works. Thanks for listening, and we hope you enjoyed today's episode. Hello again. Today I'm happy to be speaking with Nick Pfanstiel, Operations Director at Cairn Leadership Strategies, about unleashing the full potential of your team using custom outdoor adventures. Nick, welcome to the podcast.
Great to be with you. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's good to have you here. So Nick, you're at Cairn Leadership Strategies. Tell us about Cairn.
Absolutely, yeah. So we are a leadership development company at our core, and we use outdoor leadership and outdoor experiential adventures to serve as a catalyst for business growth, business development. We're really targeting growing, developing companies who are going through the process and some of the friction that comes with the people issues of growth. And we use a targeted profile of the most recent theoretical and educational topics. We put those into the outdoors, put you into the outdoors, and use that to help you grow and help you grow your team in an effective and sustainable manner.
So when you say help you grow, who's your target audience?
So we're reaching for like those mid-tier managers and those senior managers who are right at that layer where leadership starts. So they've got a team, they're learning how to develop that team, expand that team. So we're targeting those middle tier managers and some of those senior managers and helping them develop leadership skills, develop team skills that can help their team grow and then expand as they kind of expand whether that be their growth from a commercial perspective or just bring on new team members, maintain their status, and kind of grow from there.
Perfect. The second part of that sentence was using custom outdoor adventures. I looked at your website. I'm quite intrigued. So tell us more about that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So when we first start talking with a company, we're engaging them and seeing, okay, where are you at? What areas are around there? What are some activities that would be enjoyable for you to do? We are super flexible in where we're taking you out and the type of activities we're doing. We've taken people out rock climbing, we've taken people out whitewater rafting, hiking, camping. Any of those outdoor activities is our bread and butter. The one piece that we think differentiates us and it's something that we've worked a lot on, is differentiating ourselves from, it's just a fun outdoor thing where it's like a ropes course, or we're going to just go outside. We are actively trying to get you into a place that's maybe a little bit uncomfortable. We call it type 2 fun is the phrase that we like to use. And it's a phrase that anyone in the military has definitely heard. It's enjoyable. You have a lot of fun with it, but it's a little uncomfortable. And we like to put people in those positions where there's some uncomfortability, but obviously mitigated in the best way possible. But we find that experiential learning in a little bit of friction, that's where we get all of our growth. There's a lot of studies out there talking about how outdoor learning, experiential learning in the outdoors expands your attention, the pace of your learning, your ability to recall and attention to detail on that. And we target those positions where you kind of put yourself out there and are able to focus on that. So like rock climbing is a great example of that. We like to take you out rock climbing, bouldering, rappelling. It's really easy to talk about trust and fear and how do you mitigate those things when you're on belay, when you're rappelling down a rock wall. Those things are very tangible. They're right there in front of you. It's easy to feel them, see those emotions, whether that be yourself or one of your team members that you're working with. And we find that to be a really, really good venue for all of the discussions and teamwork development that we do.
Perfect. Two thoughts come to mind. First, what if somebody says, I'm not that sporty? I've never climbed a rock.
And that's a common concern we have. And you don't, in those situations, it's one, okay, we don't need to go rock climbing. We can go hiking. Like we've taken people out just to an arboretum, like just getting people outdoors in a place where, okay, risk is obviously very low to an acceptable level for y'all, but we want to get you out of the conference room. We want to get you out of that traditional classroom environment. The other thing that we will push back on and say, hey, we want to get you to this. We're not going to push you farther than you're comfortable with. If you want to be out there with your team at the rock wall seeing other people climb, we are not going to make you go and climb. I will say in many of those situations, we've had events where we had a big team, a cohort out, handful of people were like, not going to be, I'm afraid of heights, not going to do it. And after they saw other of their team members who were maybe a little bit concerned or a little worried start to do it and see the pride and see the value that they got out, they're like, you know what? Okay, I'll give it a try. I'll confront this fear and see what it's like. And I haven't had a person yet say like, oh man, I really regret getting tied in and kind of trying this thing. So that is, I think, a value. But then again, because we're flexible, because we have different options and there are so many outdoor activities out there. There's so many opportunities to engage in not a classroom environment. We can be flexible and move based off what your team is most comfortable with, what your team is feeling the most open to. And that goes for the same thing of physical abilities and everything else.
So we were speaking before the podcast began, Nick, you and I, that we have a shared background. We both served in the military, and one of my assignments was to run a confidence obstacle course. And in the military, it's not optional. Everybody does it, but there's always a few folks in every class who have those concerns and those questions. And part of it is creating, of course, a safe environment, but then also the psychologically safe environment that it's okay. Let's let others go first. And it's always fun to watch the team gel and support others on the team as they go.
Absolutely. And that's, again, kind of going back to that rappelling event, the cohort that we work with there, it's always that. Because one of the big topics we talk about then is not being afraid to fail, addressing fears, having trust in your cohort, having trust in the people around you, having trust in the person who's holding your belay. And as you see that team coalesce, and that in 30, 40 minutes, you can see a culture of acceptance and a culture of psychological safety, a culture of empathy and emotional intelligence blossom just from something like that. And that's to the idea of outdoor activities. It escalates, it speeds up the rate of learning. It speeds up the rate of recall, the rate of just the sponginess of those activities. The sponginess of those activities is really, really interesting and really, really fun to see in action. Obviously, there's risk, and that's something that is another piece of what we do everything outside is risk empowers like bold, responsible growth. Risk management, the acceptance of risk, finding ways to, okay, how have we mitigated these risks? Okay, I am now confident in this risk, and now we can move forward and actually take actions on what we're trying to do. It's all those little things of just the nuances of just a small program. It all ties into team growth and developing a team culture that moves towards sustainable growth and sustainable success.
Terrific. Many times you've said in some of your answers, culture. What are some of the changes you've seen in the teams that go through these activities from a culture standpoint?
I think we had a recent event that comes to mind immediately when you asked that. So we had a team that came out. We were up in Montana, and they'd been having some friction, nothing too extreme. But when we started sitting down and talking with them, we found that there was maybe not the communication both ways was not as effective as they wanted it to be. The methods of feedback, the avenues of feedback, were not flowing the way they wanted them to. So we put that in action. We took them out on a hiking trail, and we kind of let them make some decisions. Like, all right, here's a trail that goes this way. Here's a trail that goes this way. Which ones do you think is the most safe? Which ones do you think is the fastest way to go? What's the best way to do that? And then open it up to them to have a discussion on what do we think the pros and cons are? Am I feeling comfortable with doing this route or not? Which was again, they got to hands-on, tangible, see that come into action. And then once they came back, we sat down, did a campfire talk with them about how do you put in feedback mechanisms and take those same lessons we put into place on the trail and take those back to the boardroom, take those back to everyday business. A great conversation, had some ideas that they put in place, and they're continuing to use those now. So that culture of feedback, of listening and communication, one decision point has now had an impact on how they work together as a team back in the real world, back in their day-to-day jobs. So I think that's, for one, is a very tangible, recent example of how that works.
I can almost hear them say, remember when we were at the trailhead and we had to decide I'm sure it comes back in many different ways. Like you said, the power of the experiential learning and the power of learning together as a team.
Absolutely.
Sounds
That's
incredible.
the, and there again, there's to kind of bring back to type 2 fun, because that's something that we've been talking a lot about recently, of like how do we differentiate ourselves from something that's just fun and kind of we're focusing on just kind of getting out of the office for a day and make this something that, okay, we can actually apply the things we do, the fun we had on this adventure. And that type 2 fun thing, that discussion is where we fit in. There is friction, there's confusion, there's maybe some uncomfortability of, I don't know how to read a map, I don't know where we're at. Like, what do you mean you want us to figure this out? But then when you come back and you're like, oh, remember that one time? Like, that's the benefit, that's the value of type 2 fun. Many of my outdoor adventures, many of my military experiences, the relationships I have from those are from when you kind of go through the suck, is what we call it. It was, this is not the most enjoyable thing we're doing right now, but we are going to get through this as a team. We're going to move past this as individuals who are working together. And those bonds that you form in those situations where there's maybe a little bit of friction, there's maybe a little bit of confusion and gray area, I think those relationships are the strongest ones you have. And that's what we're trying to get a hold of in the outdoors, getting out into the backcountry, getting onto a river in a canoe and a whitewater raft. Those draw out those moments so quickly and so easily. I think sometimes in presentations or in a boardroom, you miss some of those. You miss some of that friction. You miss some of the attentiveness that comes from decisions made at a trail junction, decisions made where someone's got to call the cadence for the whitewater raft, or we're going to get kind of bumped around in the whitewater here. Those moments get pulled out very quickly, very easily. And again, that's why we think there's a paper that was published where there's a 200% increase in the speed of learning in an outdoor experiential environment versus in a classroom environment. And there's obviously benefits to both of those environments in different categories. When you're working at speed, when you're working with commercial companies where, hey, we want to see tangible results, that speed and that retention is critical, and the outdoors really helps to bring that home.
So, two questions. One, does it ever not work?
I think so. Personally, I have not seen an example where it hasn't.
Okay.
I'm sure there are. There's no absolutes out there, but I think where you find the most friction with that is if someone's not fully bought in. So motivation is a critical piece to anything we do, and that goes for whatever kind of leadership training you're doing. If your people aren't bought into it and they're not paying attention, they're not willing to learn, I think you run into friction with that, and you run into maybe a little bit of less stickiness in those situations. I would say these have a huge piece of that. The distractions of the day can pull you away from the leadership that you're working on, the team discussions that you're working on. If you're not fully bought into that, it's very hard to create sustainable and persistent growth. That lifelong learner mentality is hard to maintain when you're constantly getting pulled in a million different directions. I think part of the reason we've seen success, and a lot of success, and again, from my personal perspective, I haven't seen it really crash and burn yet, is because there's not cell service out there. You're not sitting in a classroom where your laptop's right there and the team's messages are still coming up and you feel your phone buzzing in your pocket. That's not really persistent. That's not there when you're outside, or when you're, even if you have your phone in your pocket and you feel your phone buzz, if you're on belay, so that's going to have the weight. There's something more important, more happening right here in front of me that I need to take priority on. So I think that the motivation and the desire to learn is a huge factor. And if you don't have that, I think you have more difficulty in making something stick, making a learning stick. But again, I think our methodology has proven pretty successful in mitigating some of those distractions that kind of pull away from successful teams and successful growth.
Sure. And when you said the motivation and desire to learn, I think it probably extends to the motivation and desire to underline, fill in the blank, to grow closer as a team, the motivation and desire to be part of that team, the motivation and desire to give your full attention to that team, even when you're not on belay. So here's my second question. What's belay? For those of us who
Yeah.
maybe haven't experienced the joys of rappelling?
Yes. So when you're in a rock climbing team, you'll have the climber who is the one who's actually tied into the ropes and the harness up on the wall. Belayer is the person down below who is holding your stop. So in case you do slip or you do fall, there will be someone with who's tied into your rope, and they're the one helping to hold you steady. So if you do slip, they'll have tied in the rope far. We teach everyone to keep that rope taut and keep that line tight so that if they fall, it's a glorified trust fall in and of itself. So that person, that belayer, is the person who's catching you. A lot of trust goes into that. A lot of faith in people who you're with. Belaying is a phrase for, hey, this is the gear that I have. You're tied into my rope here. I've got you. I'm holding you up on the wall. And then the fun part of that is they're the one who gets to lower you down after you climb to the top of the wall. You hit the bell or hit the crux of the height, hit the summit rock. They're the ones who are lowering you down slowly through that belay device to get you back down to the ground. So again, trust in the most purest sense of I've got to trust my boss because he's got me. I am in his hands to a degree.
Or vice versa, hopefully. It's my boss is up there and I've got to decide whether I'm going to let him or
Yeah,
her down. So, good. Thank you for teaching us about the mechanics of belay if you've not experienced that before. And again, like many things you've discussed, there's so many parallels between trust in the workplace, trust in a team relationship that come out of that one simple example. Here's my other question that I wanted to ask before. So you've mentioned some relatively tame things like whitewater rafting and some rock wall climbing, etc., hiking on a trail. What are some of the more extreme examples of places you've helped people grow at a 200% rate or greater?
yeah. So the best example I have recently. So we did a cohort with the United States Naval Academy's Stockdale Ethical Leadership Branch. Not so much with the midshipmen who are the students, but with their professors and some of the teachers, helping them generate leadership development, gain some new insights as leaders, how to maybe teach a little bit better or teach the different leadership topics that they were going to have. Adventure piece, the crux of their event was a summit climb of Mount Washington in New Hampshire. Now, New Hampshire is notorious for having some of the strongest wind gusts in the world, just based off the geology of the area, but it was also a winter climb. So before we got them out there, or the first day that we had them out there, we had plenty of discussions on adult learning, on empathy, psychological safety for teachers, students, and teams. But then we also took them to a company that does ice climbing and taught them some of the basis of ice climbing and mountaineering, basic mountaineering. And then the next day was the summit attempt of we are going to climb this mountain in the snow, potentially in some ice, and the winds are going to be there. There's amazing pictures on our website and from the event where it's in times when we've gone up there, it's a full-on whiteout just because of, again, the winds are extremely intense, and those are fairly challenging. It's challenging conditions, kind of scary conditions, honestly, in many situations, especially if that's something that you've never done before. You're pushing your limits to have hiked before, but man, I've never gone near it on the windiest mountain in the planet before, and that was incredible. Was not personally on that event myself, but talking to some of the guides who were out there for that, and Knight was out there, our CEO was out there for that one. Incredible event. Incredible leadership lessons learned from that. They got about halfway to the halfway point. There's a stop there for along the established route of, hey, this is kind of your halfway point. Gut check. Can you make it? Everything good? And there was an honest discussion of how are we feeling? Like, can we keep going? Like, is there safety wise, risk management wise, are we good? We are. How's everyone feeling? Like, this is a hard hike already, so physically, mentally getting blown around on the mountains, not entirely fun. We're in 100% type 2 territory right now. How's everyone feeling? And if I recall exactly, about half the team was like, I think this is probably far enough for me. I think we'll go back down and we'll go to the next thing. And another half the team was like, I think we're good. We're ready to go. And that was great because it's honest discussions, honest, somewhat very vulnerable discussions of, and especially for these people who are kind of tied to the military and a military environment, there is a stigma of let's just push through, like push forward, push forward, push forward. So having the vulnerability to have a discussion of, I think I'm gonna call it. I'm not gonna go with that today. Awesome for you guys. Really happy for you. Stoked for you. Team rah rah. Like you guys go get it. We'll be down here waiting for you guys with the hot chocolate and some hot tea for when you get back down. So I think that probably was a safe environment. That trail is well maintained. They've got an incredible safety team out there. We have incredible guides who are wilderness first responders, route train guides, alpine guides. So they know how to keep everyone safe up there. So we mitigate the risk down to as low as we can get it. And we always have a safety point of, okay, it's full on whiteout. Like we know that some people probably feel we're good. Maybe we are. Some of us are good, but we're going to call this one and move down. So I'd say that's on its face, core value. That's probably one of our challenging hike we do.
Did the team that decided to continue make the summit?
They did. Yeah. So we've got incredible pictures from them up on the top. And then that same team came back a few months later and did a hike along near Front Royal in the Shenandoah Valley. I believe they were in the Virginia section of this. So there's a hike along portion and then a canoe trip back up the river from there. So kind of hit them again and had more discussions and maybe a little bit more tamer environment. Anything with water can get a little scary just because strainers, water, all that is its own unique concern. But yeah, we were able to get them into 3 different environments. They climbed, ice climbed, hiked, canoed. Really awesome team, really awesome environment, and got a lot of really good lessons and things to try. And now they're taking that back to the academy and teaching young midshipmen and paying that forward. And that's, I think, it's why we love doing stuff with organizations like that. We know those leaders that come back are going to pay that forward to their team members and hopefully teach the same things that we've helped them to identify, whether that be on a rock wall, on a trail, on the water. They're going to teach those things to their subordinates, to their partners, their peers. So that's when we find that to be really, really impactful.
Excellent. I love how you said it was impactful, and I think I'm going to close on that point. So the title of this podcast is Unleashing the Full Potential of Your Team. It's clear that through these activities, your team, and I think you said you've been doing this for over 8 years, the team's been doing this for over 8 years, your team has unleashed the potential of many different teams, and some of those teams come back to you for additional exercises or unleash more of their potentials. I think that's wonderful. I will say this, the name of our podcast is The People Who Help People, and clearly you're helping, but it strikes me that this is also a sub-episode, Leaders Who Help Leaders, because it seems like everybody who's part of your organization has been through many experiential leading exercises, and I bet you're really good at meeting teams where they're at, taking them through something maybe they haven't pushed themselves to do before, but then helping them, like you said, bring that back into the work environment, bring that back into situations that are relevant to them.
We're incredibly proud of our guide team. Like that is one of our biggest strengths of the team, the individuals we have working who will go and guide. Many of them are military veterans with military experience. Many of them are exceptionally smart managers in their own right at different companies. Many of them are leadership coaches and development coaches. So we have incredible people, incredibly experienced people who, because we have so many of them, many of the friction points that companies are going through when they come to us, we've seen them or at least had heard about them. So we can relate to you where you're, as you said, where you're at, meet you there, and help you kind of expand past that or move forward from it.
Outstanding. Nick, it's been a pleasure speaking with you today. If somebody who's listening to this podcast wants to either get in touch with you, connect with you on LinkedIn, or check out some of those great photos from the Mount Washington climb, is it okay if we include your email, your LinkedIn address, and the company website when we post this podcast?
Absolutely, yeah. So we both my personal LinkedIn and then we have a company page on LinkedIn as well. We have company pages on YouTube and Instagram. Instagram's where you're going to see some of the more of the photos than anything. So if you're interested in the outdoor photos, go and follow us there. And then our website as well. And that's where you can reach out to us, schedule any calls that you would like to maybe start seeing if this is something that you would be interested in.
Terrific. I think it sounds like a lot of fun. I'm envious of any team who takes advantage of these custom outdoor adventures. They sound like wonderful learning experiences, and almost you can't go wrong. So,
No.
Well done. Terrific. All right, Nick, very nice meeting you. Thanks so much. Take care.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on.
My pleasure.